Part 135. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1341. Chapter 1341, Gloating over Misfortune. Xia Yingluo looked at her with a smile. Crazy? Help me bring these two words to Gu Jingxiu, thank you. Tang Yuan was feeling dizzy for a while. She didn't expect that Xia Yingluo would be so bold. Seeing that it was impossible to shoot today, if the schedule was delayed and the version shot by Xia Yingluo was broadcast, Gu Jingxiu might be how to punish her. Tang Yuan felt horrified just thinking about it. She lost her sense of proportion and ordered Qiangzi in a trembling voice, Go. Go and find the person responsible for the styling. Ask them to work overtime and drive out the armor. Qiangzi hurried away. Xia Yingluo watched all this with a smile on her face and slowly walked away with her people. She didn't care if Qiangzi went to find Jerry had no time to pay attention to them anyway. As a stylist, she believed that Jerry was more interested in the armor improvement plan than anything else. Even if he had to help Tang Yuan build another armor due to his responsibilities, he would definitely leave it to his assistants, or postpone it until he learned how to do it. After acquiring new skills. In any case, it was simply impossible for Tang Yuan to make armor quickly and well. She returned home in a good mood, and the next day, Jerry came to her door with gifts and asked for advice on how to improve the armor. Xia Yingluo was quite direct. She pointed out several areas where he could improve, all of which were based on considerations of cosmic dynamics, what characteristics the equipment should have in order to fight under different gravity parameters. Jerry was filled with admiration and said repeatedly, Ms. Xia, you are amazing. This armor theory is almost real. It doesn't look like a movie at all. It feels like we humans can really fight on alien planets. Like real science. Xia Yingluo smiled. It's still far from being able to fight. The several improvements she told him were all understandable with human intelligence, and some of them used casting curves that had long been eliminated by other races in the universe in order to take care of human aesthetics. This is also to prevent Wei Lingnan from seeing the clues. The mixed and impure style looks like the imaginative work of a high-end Earth designer, rather than the perfect armor brought by the experience of real fighting stars. When Jerry heard what she said, he was slightly startled, then rubbed his hands and smiled. Yes, you are right, Miss Xia. How can there be a real Star Wars? These are just the imagination of hard science fiction. How about knowing the actual effect? But it's really great. Once the design background of this armor is released, it will definitely cause an uproar among science fiction fans. This is what Xia Yingluo wants. That's why we spare no effort to strive for excellence in every detail. Her father told her that for any top-notch work that is popular around the world, in addition to the work itself, its background structure and the extension of every detail are very important. At the same time, it will also arouse huge enthusiasm for digging and debate among fans, thus giving the work unlimited vitality. She deliberately mixed in several cosmological theories with a mix of true and false. None of the existing science fiction genres on the Earth, whether correct or wrong, was left behind. Presumably, the conflicts it caused alone would be enough to cause a global crisis. Discuss. Her popularity will skyrocket during the discussion. Xia Yingluo is very satisfied with her plan. Jerry drew a design drawing based on their discussion plan. He was so fascinated that he changed it again and again. He didn't even know when Xia Yingluo went out. Xia Yingluo left him alone in the studio and told the servants to remember to prepare dinner and bed for him. She knew how delicate and complicated the armor was, and she had to understand all the key points in it. With human IQ, not many people could do it. I couldn't get out for days and nights. As for Tang Yuan? Haha, just wait slowly. She was in a good mood and asked Tan Ying to inquire, how is Tang Yuan's situation? Are you so anxious that you are about to cry? Tan Ying raised his eyebrows slightly. What kind of evil are you doing? What kind of bad taste am I doing? I obviously want to spare no effort to suppress my competitors. Okay, Xia Yingluo smiled innocently. Uncle Tan, hurry up and tell me what makes her unhappy to make me happy. You, Tan Ying said, unable to do anything about her. Jerry left a few assistants to help Tang Yuan reproduce your set of armor, which was the basic version that was burned. However, what those assistants made it was unsatisfactory. The commercial was filmed over and over again, and it was far inferior to yours. The boss of Huanisi's advertising department almost vomited blood after watching it. Xia Yingluo gloated, who asked them to change people before the battle? By the way, how was the negotiation? Tan Ying said, I used Tianyi's power to suppress them. They seemed unwilling to offend us, but they also didn't want to offend Gu Jingxiu. I was very surprised. How could a small company from the Gu family compete with Tianyi? After a while, I realized that Wei Lingnan was behind her. He said and glanced at Xia Yingluo. Xia Yingluo was slightly in a trance, feeling empty in her heart. It seems that Wei Lingnan really cares about Gu Jingxiu and helps him no matter what. But what does this have to do with her? Why is she so lost? Xia Yingluo shook her head slightly, trying to get rid of the strange feeling in her heart. Tell me the details, she asked Tan Ying softly. Tan Ying was not polite to her, nor did he have any intention of not being able to offend others. In fact, he believed that as the eldest daughter of the Li family, Xia Yingluo should face these dismal love disappointments head-on and not escape. After sorting out his thoughts, he said, Warness makes cosmetics. The core raw materials of their cosmetics are purchased from Guard's biopharmaceutical group. It is precisely because of these core raw materials that their cosmetics are unique and their business is successful so big. They can't live without the Wei family at all. In this case, if the Wei family wants them to replace a spokesperson, it's just a matter of words. No matter how outstanding you are and how powerful your background is, you don't have control over their lifeline. They won't sell you face either. I see. Xia Yingluo nodded, indicating that she understood. She didn't expect that even a group like Warness would have business dealings with the Wei family. How far had Wei Lingnan's hands stretched over the years? Do you have any suggestions? She asked Tan Ying. Tan Ying understood what she meant and directly gave her the next step. The early promotion of the movie Star Wars era has already started. Everyone knows that the cosmetics in it are sponsored by Warness. In this kind of situation, it's not appropriate to change sponsors temporarily under the circumstances. It will only make people want to gossip about what happened. If you don't change sponsors, you have to get the spring advertisement, and the reason is the same, you are already endorsing this brand. You know, if you change someone temporarily, the people will still gossip about your failure, which will be detrimental to you. Yingying is taking a flight from Shanghai to Chengdu today. She is on a journey, so she will update 2 times. The first update will be at 8 p.m. as usual, and the update at 2200 hours will be cancelled. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 1342. Chapter 1342. Who is a Luo? Xia Yingluo was not surprised. In other words, no matter what, I have to solve Wei's problem and get the spring advertisement. Tan Ying said slowly. Yes, he swore that he didn't want to watch a good show, but seeing Xia Yingluo being so irritable but unable to break out, he just found it interesting. Xia Yingluo rubbed her forehead, wanting to get big. She tried every possible means not to get involved with Wei Lingnan, but who knew that people were not as good as God, but they still bumped into each other. Based on her understanding of Wei Lingnan, that man is a stubborn man who will carry out the queen's orders to the letter, even if he is broken into pieces. If he wants him to give in, he has to start with Gu Jingxiu. Bitch, she cursed bitterly. Tan Ying nodded, expressing deep agreement. Since Wei Lingnan was protecting that woman, ordinary methods might not be useful against Gu Jingxiu. Xia Yingluo thought about it and painfully realized that there was only one way to go. She chose a quiet time at night, sneaked into the Gu family villa alone, and entered Gu Jingxiu's room. The moonlight is like water, with a hint of coolness in the cold night. She saw the woman half lying on the bed calling Wei Lingnan, "Okay, Nan, I will take care of myself and go to bed early. Don't forget to go see a movie together tomorrow." There was so much tenderness in Gu Jingxiu's voice that it made one's bones feel weak. Xia Yingluo felt a twinge in her heart and cursed in her heart. She stood behind the cold glass window for a long time. When Gu Jingxiu finished the call, she teleported silently and flashed directly out of the closed French window. Arrive at her bed. Ah, Gu Jingxiu was so frightened that her face turned pale, her body suddenly shrank back, and she held her mobile phone in front of her face. Xia Yingluo looked at her sarcastically. "How dare you pretend to be a queen with this little courage?" Xia Yingluo, Gu Jingxiu calmed down for a moment, saw the person in front of him clearly, and became extremely angry. "Why did you appear in my room? What do you think?" Xia Yingluo's voice was unhurried and she looked down at the woman on the bed, as if she were looking at a humble ant. "I know you like Wei Lingnan, and I don't intend to argue with you. That's stupid. It's okay to give up a man to you. However, Gu Jingxiu, you shouldn't offend me and block my way again and again. Do you know?" As she spoke, she slowly raised her hand, using her white and graceful fingers. It stretched and lengthened at a speed visible to the naked eye, and soon, sharp nails grew. "Do you know that I am the real queen?" "What?" Gu Jingxiu's head buzzed. What was this woman talking about? Is she the real queen? How can it be? But what happened to the nails on her hands? How could they become as sharp as the blades of the Scatena people? Gu Jingxiu's heart was beating fast and she looked at Xia Yingluo nervously. "You're lying. Don't think that you can pretend to be the queen with just a few tricks. Nandu told me that you are just a failed resurrection experiment. The real queen is me. Only me." "Who gave you confidence?" Xia Yingluo looked at her with more pity. Gu Jingxiu huddled on the bed. After the initial fright, she gradually gained courage. It's normal for failed test subjects to retain some abilities, but can you speak the language of Scatena? Don't forget, the last you almost died from the resonance when I spoke. Hey, how could you be such a weak person? Gu Jingxiu said, opening the language of Scatena without any warning. She called Wei Lingnan's real name with that mysterious resonance, because this was the only sentence in the Scatena language she could speak. However, she believed that this sentence alone was enough, because in the restaurant when it first snowed last time, it was this sentence that shocked Xia Yingluo's internal organs to pieces. It's a pity that she was disappointed this time. Mysterious resonance echoed in the empty room, floor-to-ceiling glass and chandeliers shattered, and biting cold air mixed with wind and snow poured in. However, Xia Yingluo, standing in the center of the storm, did nothing and refused to evade. There were fragments of falling chandeliers and shards of glass that cut into her arm. However, it only took a few seconds for the blood-soaked arm to heal quickly and remain intact. She had a graceful figure and looked at Gu Jingxiu with a sarcastic smile. Gu Jingxiu's expression changed. How could it be possible? How could she not be afraid of such an attack? The look on his face was condensed, and there was a murderous look in Gu Jingxiu's eyes, and the resonance was more rapid and sharp, but this time, Xia Yingluo was still unharmed. Don't waste your efforts in the messy room, Xia Yingluo said coldly. I have told you, I am the queen and you are a fake. How can a fake defeat the queen? As soon as she finished speaking, her fingertips, his sharp claws suddenly extended and inserted into Gu Jingxiu's down pillow against her cheek. The pillow was scratched and white feathers flew into the air. Gu Jingxiu was so frightened that her face turned pale. She could feel the coldness on her fingertips. Just a slight deviation could have killed her. But despite this, she was unwilling to bow her head and admit defeat to Xia Yingluo. I am the queen, I can't be wrong. She stared at Xia Yingluo with wide eyes. She really didn't understand why she had inherited a Luo's memory and abilities, but then such a powerful Xia Yingluo appeared out of thin air. Could it be that you've also awakened? Gu Jingxiu asked out of nowhere, feeling blessed in his heart. At last you're not stupid enough, Xia Yingluo said coldly, retracting her sharp claws. It's impossible. Gu Jingxiu didn't want to believe it. There can't be two Luo in this world. So what if you awaken? Can you speak the language of the Scatana tribe? Only I am the one Queen Luo, only me. Xia Yingluo looked at her with pity, her lips didn't move, and the mysterious sound like water was already echoing in the air. That was the resonance frequency of the Scatana star. Gu Jingxiu looked at her in horror and found that Xia Yingluo could speak many pronunciations, unlike her who could only pronounce Wei Lingnan's name. Could it be that Xia Yingluo is the real Luo? Gu Jingxiu couldn't accept this fact and shook her head desperately. No, it can't be yours. Nan said Luo is me, so it must be me. You are a fake. She finally woke up and became. How could the unique being in Wei Lingnan's heart give up this position to others? We must not let Wei Lingnan find out that Xia Yingluo has also awakened. Yes, we must not. Gu Jingxiu's mind began to spin, and gradually, a faint murderous aura gathered in his eyes. If Xia Yingluo is solved here, wouldn't it be 101? Xia Yingluo was very sensitive to murderous intent. Of course she found out what she was planning, but she was not afraid at all. She just sneered, "Do you think I came to you in the middle of the night and told you the truth just to be killed by you? Do you really? Are you sure you can kill me?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1343. Chapter 1343 Tenfold Repayment. Gu Jingxiu's face turned white again and again. From the energy resonance just now, she could tell how powerful Xia Yingluo was. Although she didn't know how powerful she was compared to Wei Lingnan, there was no doubt that she was much stronger than herself. A strong sense of crisis struck. If this woman was allowed to continue to live, who knew what threats she would pose to herself? Gu Jingxiu suddenly stood up from the bed, screamed and threw herself at Xia Yingluo. She tried her best and used all her energy to attack Xia Yingluo. She raised her hand to grab a piece of broken glass from the corner of the table and stabbed Xia Yingluo. Xia Yingluo was a little surprised that she really dared to do so. Her body was hugged, and she saw the debris coming towards her. She just raised her hand to deflect it. The glass fragments scratched a long mark on Xia Yingluo's hand, but it did not heal automatically like before. The blood fell like broken beads, and the air was filled with a fishy sweet smell. Xia Yingluo looked at her wound and was stunned for a moment. Then she remembered that she had just used teleportation to enter Gu Jingxiu's room. The energy consumption was too great and she could no longer hold on. Teleportation consumes a lot of energy. When Wei Lingnan teleported from the base to Jin Linger's ward, he was exhausted because of the excessive consumption, and it took a long time to repair it. Although her teleportation distance this time was short, she had only awakened not long ago, and she used a human body, so the burden was not light. No, even the wounds cannot heal quickly. She frowned slightly, but she didn't panic. She stretched out her hand again and Gu Jingxiu fell to the ground among the debris, also covered in injuries. Gu Jingxiu made another sharp and high-pitched voice, and rushed forward regardless. She knew very well that she would kill Xia Yingluo here no matter what today. If Xia Yingluo died, she could live happily with Wei Lingnan. Even if the Li family and Xia family are looking for trouble. Don't be afraid, Wei Lingnan will definitely protect her. However, if Xia Yingluo had not died, Wei Lingnan would always be thinking about this woman in his heart. Who knows what might happen in the future? Even if Xia Yingluo claimed that she was not interested in Wei Lingnan, she, Gu Jingxiu, was not blind. How could she not see the feelings for that man in Xia Yingluo's eyes? Must be killed. Gu Jingxiu waved the fragments in her hand and stabbed Xia Yingluo up and down. Xia Yingluo had a hint of sarcasm in her expression. She waved her hand again and pushed Gu Jingxiu to the corner of the bed. Gu Jingxiu's forehead touched the hard edge of the bed, and blood flowed out, making him miserable. Xia Yingluo, on the other hand, was still standing as if nothing had happened. Except for the arm that was scratched by Gu Jingxiu at first, her clothes were intact, clean, and spotless. She just stood in the mess, calm and unfazed. Innocent, her voice was clear and cold. With such skills, you still have the nerve to pretend to be me. Although her energy was weak, her fighting instinct was still there. It was too easy to deal with a young lady who didn't know what fighting was. Gu Jingxiu curled up on the corner of the bed and gasped. She felt pain all over her body. She didn't know if her bones were broken, and she couldn't stand up at all. She looked at Xia Yingluo in shock and anger, and was about to say something. Suddenly, her eyes froze behind Xia Yingluo. South. Xia Yingluo's heart skipped a beat. Turning around, I saw a person slowly walking into the broken floor-to-ceiling window over there. Under the scattered snowflakes, the person was wearing a clean white shirt. He had a tall figure, handsome eyebrows, and a pair of eyes as calm as a calm ice lake. It is Wei Lingnan. Xia Yingluo subconsciously put her hands behind her back, quickly retracted her sharp nails, and turned into the appearance of an ordinary human being. Her heart was pounding. Why is Wei Lingnan here? Didn't he see the change in her just now? Soon, she realized that she was worrying too much. Wei Lingnan didn't even look at her. He only walked to the injured Gu Jingxiu and squatted down. Are you okay? What happened to the energy fluctuation just now? Are you in danger? Gu Jingxiu's face turned pale. She and Xia Yingluo were thinking about the same thing. Wei Lingnan didn't notice anything unusual about Xia Yingluo, right? Fortunately, judging from his words, he probably knew nothing about Xia Yingluo's changes. Gu Jingxiu's mind raced and she mustered up the courage. I was injured. Xia Yingluo suddenly barged in the middle of the night. I. She glanced at Xia Yingluo, and saw that the other person looked indifferent and showed no emotion. She decided not to irritate Xia Yingluo. At present, it seemed that Xia Yingluo didn't want to tell Wei Lingnan that she was a queen. It would be bad if she provoked her and told Wei Lingnan. Gu Jingxiu said to Wei Lingnan carefully, "It's okay, it's just a little misunderstanding." "It was just a misunderstanding, and she hurt you like this." Wei Lingnan's voice contained a faint murderous intent. After awakening, his Aluo seemed to be less arrogant and cold than before, and more soft like the little princess. "Do you want to put things to rest now?" However, he didn't allow it. No one can escape unharmed after touching his woman. He stood up and walked step by step in front of Xia Yingluo. "You are looking for death." Xia Yingluo's eyes were still full of ridicule when she looked at him. There were two energy fluctuations just now, one from her and one from Gu Jingxiu. However, the man in front of her didn't notice the difference between the two energy fluctuations and simply thought it was Gu Jingxiu's encounter. When trouble comes, energy is used. Although I am very glad that I was not exposed, I don't know why, but I also feel lost. The person who kept saying he loved her so much, suddenly passed away and changed his skin, and it turned out that there was nothing left. I still say what I said, I don't want to get involved in your affairs, Xia Yingluo said with half-interest. What do you want me to do? Cure her? Apologize to her? It's all fine. But don't interfere with Warness anymore. It's about the commercials and my career, that's very important to me. Originally, she wanted to threaten Gu Jingxiu not to cause trouble again, but the plan seemed to have failed. We can only make more concessions, negotiate with Wei Lingnan, and temporarily endure and bow our heads for the big goal of returning to our home star 100 years later. Unexpectedly, Wei Lingnan sneered and didn't even say nonsense to her. With a wave of his hand, a huge wave of energy came over. Xia Yingluo was caught off guard and was pushed hard and fell against the wall. Half of the wall was smashed. Destroyed, the wall mixed with bricks and tiles came down, causing her to drip with blood. Xia Yingluo coughed up a mouthful of blood. Her eyesight turned black and she felt that her internal organs were displaced. Wei Lingnan's eyes changed slightly. He had just struck out in anger. He thought she would be seriously injured and unconscious. Who knew that she just spit out a mouthful of blood and still had the strength to curl up to protect herself. He raised his hand again, and more energy surged towards her. Those who hurt a Luo must pay back tenfold. Xia Yingluo noticed the energy and her heart sank to the bottom. His attack left no room. If she was hit this time, she didn't know if she would die. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1344. Chapter 1344. Are you the queen? She doesn't want to die. Scatena needs to be rebuilt and passed on, and she still has her mission. But the energy came too fast and was majestic, and the energy of the Scatena star in her body had been exhausted in this conflict. Even if she tried to use the remaining energy now, it was too late to condense it. All she could do was to curl up subconsciously, protect her chest and abdomen, close her eyes, and wait for the verdict of fate. The expected devastating blow did not come. The wind was howling around him, some huge energy was raging violently, and the broken bricks were falling down. But she was safe and sound. So many bricks and fragments of furniture, not a speck of dust fell on her. She raised her head in surprise and found that Wei Lingnan was also looking at her in surprise, or in other words, his eyes were shocked, extremely shocked. Only then did she realize that her body was enveloped by a faint layer of light. It was a strange color that did not exist in the Earth's spectrum. If I had to describe it, it was almost translucent golden green, extremely gorgeous and brilliant. To the extreme, the strands of lines spread out like water waves, faintly spreading like the branches and leaves of some kind of plant. World Tree, Wei Lingnan whispered in disbelief. Xia Yingluo then discovered that the mysterious protective shield on her body actually looked like the World Tree of Scatena. Its branches and leaves were so unique and different from any other plant on the earth. It protected her and enveloped her, like a mother tenderly guarding her child. How so? Xia Yingluo couldn't understand why a protective shield similar to the World Tree appeared on her body. Even on Star Scatena, even when she was still the revered queen, the World Tree had never appeared in this form. In fact, even in the long history of Scatena, there is no such thing like this. She looked at the mysterious ripples on her body and was extremely shocked. Over there, Wei Lingnan had half knelt down, stretched out his hand tremblingly, and touched the ever-changing ripples like water with his fingertips. The moment his fingertips touched the ripples, the originally beautiful golden green branches and leaves instantly turned into blood-like crimson, with a brilliant brilliance that bounced him away with a sharp whistling sound. Wei Lingnan was caught off guard and was ejected several meters away. The place where his fingers touched the protective shield was dripping with blood and his bones were exposed. He looked at his fingers in disbelief. The wound showed no signs of healing on its own. Through the wound, a trace of violent and familiar energy fluctuations came. That was, the energy fluctuation of the World Tree. This protective shield is really related to the World Tree. He stared at Xia Yingluo for a moment, his gaze was ferocious and terrifying, as if he wanted to tear her apart in search of answers. Xia Yingluo was stared at by his fierce gaze, and then she realized what she was doing. Regardless of her injured and weak body, she stood up holding onto the broken wall and ran out staggeringly. She didn't know how long she had been running. She only felt pain as if her body was falling apart. Her lower abdomen was spasming, as if it was being cut by thousands of knives, making her face pale and shaky. The night was filled with mist, blocking the hazy moonlight. She was panting, her steps were frivolous and messy, she didn't know how long she had been running, it seemed as long as tens of millions of years. Finally, he pushed open the door of the Lee family villa and passed out. When I woke up, the whole family was by my side. Her mother, Xiaoling, held her hand tightly. Yingluo. You finally woke up, tears fell down like broken beads, you went to find Wei Lingnan again, didn't you? Do you know how worried we are? You're not worth it for that beast. Xia Yingluo forced a smile on her pale cheeks and moved with difficulty, trying to raise her hand to comfort her mother, but she couldn't even lift a finger. Don't move, Xia Moyan, who was accompanying Xiaoling, said, your body is too damaged and you need to take good care of yourself. Xia Yingluo didn't dare to move. She could feel how bad her physical condition was. Her whole body was shattered like an earthquake scene, and she didn't know if any of her internal organs and bones were intact. Although Wei Lingnan's second wave of attacks was offset by the mysterious protective shield, she was seriously injured in the first wave of attacks and was lucky not to die. Who are you? A low and hoarse voice sounded in the room, like a trapped animal. Why do you have the energy fluctuations of the world tree on your body? Xia Yingluo was shocked. She looked up and saw a man through the gap between her mother and uncle who were guarding the bedside. He was wearing a dirty white shirt mixed with dust and blood. His hair was messy and his eyes were bloodshot. He turned out to be Wei Lingnan. Why is he here? She turned her head, frowning, and looked at her mother and uncle dissatisfied. Xia Moyan's face was as cold as ice. That night you passed out at the door of the house. Not long after the housekeeper brought you in, this man followed you. No matter how hard you chase him away, you won't leave. There is no one in this world who can hurt Xia Yingluo. There were not many people, or I could count them on one hand. In the middle of the night, she was hurt so badly, and then Wei Lingnan followed. Even an idiot knew who hurt her. Xia Moyan was about to kick Wei Lingnan out on the spot, and the two even fought several times. The mysterious skills of the Guardian of the Earth met with the majestic energy of the Katniss star, and the fight was earth-shattering, destroying the entire villa of the Lee family. In the end, Xia Moyan put a special gun against Wei Lingnan's temple. Even if ordinary firearms on Earth can't hurt you, I'm good at it. Do you want to try it? Wei Lingnan looked at him seriously. I believe this gun can kill me, and I believe you dare to shoot. However, what happened to Yingluo is too important to me. Even if you want to kill me, please let me do it. I understand. After a pause, he lowered his head to Xia Moyan and said, please. Xia Moyan looked at him for a long time and slowly took back the gun. He was not sure what his niece was thinking. After all, the two had such a deep entanglement in the previous life. Even if she said she hated him, what should she do if she was heartbroken if he really hurt his life? It's better to wait until she wakes up and then worry about it. So, a group of people waited for Xia Yingluo to wake up in a strange manner. At this time, when Xia Yingluo heard that Wei Lingnan refused to leave, she was so angry that she was trembling all over. What else do you want? Wei Lingnan, don't you worry if you don't see me die with your own eyes. Get out. Get out of here. If you don't get out, I'll kill you. She was furious, her chest heaved violently, and even her eyes became red. However, Wei Lingnan stood motionless. When he heard her scolding, he was not as angry as before. He only said, why do you have the energy of the world tree of Star Scatana in your body? The world tree is protecting you. Who are you? Who is it? The Queen. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1345. Chapter 1345 World Tree. Xia Yingluo looked at him expressionlessly. In fact, she couldn't figure out why she had the energy of the world tree in her body, but she didn't want to tell Wei Lingnan her identity anyway. Since he no longer loved her, why bother with her anymore? I'm not the queen, she said coldly, get out of here right away. I will find out about the protective shield and give you an explanation. If you continue to stalk me, don't blame me for never telling you the truth. Wei Lingnan's face looked ugly. As soon as the word no came out of his mouth, his heart sank endlessly. He was so excited when he discovered the energy of the world tree in her that he even wondered if he had mistakenly identified the queen. Could it be that the real queen was not Gu Jingxiu, but Xia Yingluo? After all, Xia Yingluo looks exactly like a Luo in every word and look in her eyes, but Gu Jingxiu, apart from possessing energy and being able to speak the language of Scatana, is so different from a Luo in personality. Even if he has been looking for a Luo's shadow in Gu Jingxiu, even if he makes all kinds of far-fetched excuses to explain why she is not like a Luo, the loss and regret in his heart are getting deeper and deeper as time goes by. I even started to be afraid, guilty, and self-blame. Why would I have thoughts of being unfaithful to a Luo? How could he think a Luo was not good enough? It would be great if Xia Yingluo could be a Luo. But this vague hope was shattered when she woke up. He looked at her motionless, as if looking at a distant dream. Xia Yingluo was impatient, get out. He didn't move away, but just watched her lose her temper. In the memory, a Luo was also so bad-tempered, and would hurt people completely even if she didn't agree with him. However, this feeling is so familiar and makes him nostalgic. Xia Yingluo felt even more irritated and turned around, uncle. Xia Moyan understood what she meant and took a few steps forward. She told you to get out. It's time for you to get out. Don't force me to do anything. Wei Lingnan still stood there and suddenly said, you are pregnant. These words struck everyone's ears like a bolt from the blue. Xia Yingluo's face suddenly turned pale. What? You are pregnant? Wei Lingnan looked at her and repeated word by word, after the male of the Scatana clan mates with the queen will give birth to the world tree. You must have the seeds of the world tree in your body, that's why it protects you. Xia Yingluo was suspicious that she had heard wrongly, her body swayed, and one hand involuntarily touched her belly. Impossible, she murmured, the time is wrong. The Scatana people gave birth to the world tree very quickly. After the queen had with her husband on her wedding night, the world tree would take shape and be sensed the next day. But although she and Wei Lingnan had been entangled many times, it was all several months ago. She didn't feel anything afterwards. How come she suddenly felt the world tree recently? This is so strange. But Wei Lingnan thought she was talking about human pregnancy time. Human women can usually tell whether they are pregnant in 1 or 2 months, and it has indeed been too long since their last lovemaking. He said, the pregnancy rules on Scatana are different from those on humans. Xia Yingluo looked at him. This time, her eyes were a little more confused. Wei Lingnan stepped forward and took her hand. What are you doing? Xia Yingluo yelled angrily, her hand shrinking back as if she was electrocuted, but she had too little strength to pull away. Over there, Xia Moyan and Li Lei, who had been paying attention to his actions, stepped forward, one on the left and the other on the right, and quickly pulled Wei Lingnan away. Wei Lingnan let her father and brother pull her away, still looking at her. Look at the palms of your hands. She spread her palms. Li Lei snorted coldly, Wei Lingnan, don't be pretentious, Yingluo's palms are normal. The palms there were white and clean. Xia Yingluo lowered her head, but her expression changed slightly. In her eyes, there was a small, faintly golden green leaf in the center of her palm. It was the leaf of the world tree. She remembered that in the legend of the Scatana tribe, after the queen ate her husband on their wedding night, the next day, a symbol of the world tree would appear on her palm, this little leaf. This is the light invisible to human eyes. But she obviously didn't eat Wei Lingnan, and now she has already passed the second day of intercourse. It's really weird. Looking at her expression, Wei Lingnan knew that she had also seen the leaf. It wasn't there that night, he said. That night, when he launched the first attack on her, he caught a glimpse of her hand that she stretched out to block. It was white, shiny and empty. This happened after she woke up. I want to have a checkup. Her voice was trembling. Xiaomoyan and Li Lei looked at each other. Li Lei nodded and said to his daughter in a gentle voice, I'll make arrangements right now. This matter is too important, and no one is sure what Xia Yingluo is carrying in her belly. What if it is some kind of biological form beyond human imagination and scares the attending doctor? After much thought, Li Lei contacted his trusted friend Ji Miao and made an appointment with a well-equipped private obstetrics and gynecology hospital in the city. He borrowed the venue and closed the hospital for Xia Yingluo's examination. Wei Lingnan must follow. Xia Yingluo was confused and had no energy to argue with him, so she had to let him go. When the test results came out, Jeremy looked solemn. Lei, I don't know what happened to your daughter, but I want to tell you that she was carrying a seed in her belly, a plant seed. Did you know that? This is incredible. It's so anti-human. A plant seed? Jamie looked at her face. Little girl, you don't seem worried at all. What is going on? Are you conducting any biological experiments with your own body? Let me tell you, high-tech experiments usually have huge risks. No matter whatever you think, I suggest you stop immediately, immediately. Xia Yingluo shook her head subconsciously. No matter how the seed of Scatena was conceived, she must nurture it. This is her responsibility as a queen. The planet Scatena has been destroyed. In order for the race to continue to reproduce, she must give birth to future generations. In fact, this seed solved a big problem for her. She didn't want to have any physical contact with Wei Lingnan anymore, not even for the task of breeding offspring. Jimmy jumped. You're crazy. I'm not crazy, Xia Yingluo said. Thank you, Uncle Jamie, and please keep this matter secret. I am your father's friend, and I will keep anything he asks me confidential. But Lei-Ji Miao turned to look at Li Lei. Do you really support your daughter's decision? Such a crazy decision. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1346. Chapter 1346 Between Life and Death. Li Lei stood by the window. Over the years, it seems that no matter how big things happen, it is difficult for him to make any waves. He reached out and patted Jamie on the shoulder, showing a bright smile. Thank you, Jamie. He ended the topic. Jimu thinks that this family is crazy, but after all, it is their own business and there is no room for him to interfere. He looked at them with a complicated expression. I hope you won't regret it in the future. He turned around and walked out. The examination room fell silent. Xia Yingluo gently put her hand on her lower abdomen, feeling the power of the world tree surging faintly, and her heart was filled with a strange peace. She worked so hard to be born, grow up, fight, and ascend to the throne of queen, just for this moment, to pass on the genes of the strongest Scatena clan and prosper from generation to generation. The only flaw is that half of his genes come from him, Wei Lingnan. She raised her eyes and glanced at the man not far away. Wei Lingnan stood alone in a corner of the room. Several members of the Li family separated him intentionally or unintentionally. He looked at her from a distance, not knowing what he was thinking. There was an unpredictable look in his eyes that were always as calm as an ice lake. Luster. I want to give birth to it, no matter what it is. Xia Yingluo looked at him. It's none of your business. Wei Lingnan's voice was deep. So you don't know what it is? Does it matter what it is? It's my child. Wei Lingnan walked toward her step by step. Before he could reach her, he was stopped by several men from the Li family. They looked at him warily, not letting him get even half a step closer to Xia Yingluo. So Wei Lingnan stopped. Only a queen can give birth to the world tree. You say you are not a queen. Xia Yingluo's voice was cold. I can't think of anything at all. Maybe the rules of your planet have changed on Earth, and not only the queen can give birth to anything. Wei Lingnan was silent. He had also considered this possibility. Although queens have been responsible for the birth of the world tree in Scatena for generations, no one knows whether the princesses who died before ascending to the queen's throne have the ability to reproduce. Is this ability unique to the queen? Or does every female on Scatena have it? No one can tell. Moreover, maybe as Xia Yingluo said, many rules changed after arriving on Earth. Each planet has its own laws. Xia Yingluo saw him pondering and added, and you have found your queen a long time ago, Gu Jingxiu, right? The faint sarcasm in her voice made him frown. Gu Jingxiu is the queen. There is no doubt that she has restored her past memories and can also use the energy of the Scatena tribe. And what about Xia Yingluo? No memory, no energy. Even if she is pregnant with the world tree in her body, it is only the energy of the world tree that is protecting her. She herself has not awakened. She is so weak, she is a completely human being, and she is vulnerable. You can't give birth to the world tree, Wei Lingnan said. Xia Yingluo's face turned cold, and she was filled with anger. This man, who cares about the sky and the earth and the air, also cares about whether she will give birth to the world tree. It has nothing to do with you. Her voice burst out from between her teeth. You are not the queen. Wei Lingnan looked at her without giving in. Your body cannot bear such a heavy burden. Besides, have you forgotten the rejection reaction on Earth? If you insist on giving birth to it, you will only attacked by the will of the planet and die with it. That's my business. I don't need you to worry about it. The will of the planet has stopped attacking her for a long time, and she doesn't have the energy to bear the nutrients needed to give birth to the world tree, although, this burden will be heavy, and she must step up to replenish energy. Okay. She looked at Wei Lingnan sarcastically. Perhaps you are afraid that your queen will be unhappy? If you had known this, why would you have stalked me so hard in the first place? She turned around and passed by his body. He stood there and wanted to reach out to hold her but held back. At this point, there was no point in saying anything else. Wei Lingnan thought countless times, how great it would be if she were the queen. He liked her, she was pregnant with their child, the hope for the future of the race, everything was perfect. But the reality was that he had made a huge joke. The queen was someone else, so she and the world tree seeds in her belly were things that should not exist. He should get rid of her without hesitation. But I don't know why, but I can't do it. With worries in mind, he returned to the base. When the staff at the base saw his ugly face, they all remained silent. Mr. Wei, Miss Gu is here. Someone knocked on the door of his office cautiously. Let her in. His voice was dark. Gu Jingxiu was wearing a finely crafted embroidered dress, her long black hair was tied up, and her beautiful makeup looked noble and elegant. She walked up to Wei Lingnan step by step and asked him gently, "What's wrong? You don't look happy." Wei Lingnan said, "I'm fine." After a long silence, he told her, "Xia Yingluo is pregnant." Originally, he didn't want to talk about it, but the Scatena people's deep loyalty to the queen forced him to say that such a major thing had happened, and Gu Jingxiu had the right to know. Although, this kind of knowledge will bring danger to Xia Yingluo. Wei Lingnan felt a dull pain in his heart. He and her child could not be saved after all. Unexpectedly, Gu Jingxiu's face turned pale and she asked in a low voice, "Is the child yours?" Wei Lingnan didn't want to hide it. "I'm sorry." "When did this happen?" "Before you awakened. Maybe it was a matter of planetary rules, which was discovered only recently." Gu Jingxiu's face looked better. "In any case, This incident happened before she woke up, so it was not considered a betrayal. No. In other words, he has never betrayed. His queen may really be that woman, and he is a fake, a fake. Who knows? Jealousy and unwillingness were like a fire burning in Gu Jingxiu's heart. She smiled reluctantly, I don't blame you. How is the child? I will take care of it. Wei Lingnan's voice was a little hoarse. Gu Jingxiu held his hand down, what does Xia Yingluo say? Is she willing to get rid of the child? Wei Lingnan shook his head, but said, don't worry, so what if she doesn't want to? For the sake of the queen, he would not let that child be born even if he offended everyone in the world. Gu Jingxiu was silent for a long time, and then said softly, let her give birth. Wei Lingnan raised his head, his usually calm eyes full of surprise. Let her give birth, Gu Jingxiu said, I am also a woman, and I know how painful it is to force her to have an abortion. Nan, we are already happily together, so stop embarrassing the indigenous people of this planet and accumulate more good luck. It's good for you. Her sincere eyes don't look like they are fake. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1347. Chapter 1347 Becoming Famous Overnight. Wei Lingnan asked, are you really willing? Gu Jingxiu lowered his eyes slightly and hid his expression, yeah. So Wei Lingnan nodded, Allo, I've made you feel wronged. Faintly, his mood relaxed, and when he learned that the seed could survive, he couldn't help but feel lucky. However, in just a short moment, he blamed himself for why he felt like this. What is he longing for? The birth of his and Xia Yingluo's child. That was a betrayal of the queen. His long, well-jointed fingers clenched into fists at his sides, with sharp claws protruding and sinking into his palms. Gu Jingxiu stepped forward, raised her head, and looked into his eyes, Nan, the world tree is the world tree, and you are you. I am willing to let her give birth to that tree because I feel sorry for her, but I don't want you to still miss her. Promise me not to think about her again. Wei Lingnan took her hand, lowered his head and pressed a kiss on the back of her hand, yes, queen. So Gu Jingxiu laughed silently. She hasn't lost this battle yet, has she? Just now, she persuaded Wei Lingnan to let Xia Yingluo give birth to the world tree, not out of sympathy, but because Xia Yingluo had already approached her. Xia Yingluo showed her sharp claws and threatened her. If the world tree is in danger, then everything she desires will be reduced to ashes. She was afraid that Xia Yingluo was really the queen and had to make an agreement with Xia Yingluo. She advised Wei Lingnan to stop interfering in Xia Yingluo's acting career and pregnancy. Accordingly, Xia Yingluo would not be with Wei Lingnan. The two women each got what they wanted, and both were happy. Gu Jingxiu stretched out her hand and stroked Wei Lingnan's cheek with her fingertips, Nan, you are mine, and no one can take it away from you. Including Xia Yingluo, who is suspected of being the queen. Wei Lingnan stared at her affectionately. She stood on tiptoes, lowered his head, and wanted to press a kiss on his lips. However, even in such a good atmosphere, he still turned his head to avoid it. Don't be like this, it's not time yet. Nan, Gu Jingxiu's voice was hurt and sharp, you always say it's not time yet. When can we really be together? I know there will be rejection after being with you. The antidote, there's only one portion, and you've been giving it to Xia Yingluo, but do you plan to keep doing this forever? If Xia Yingluo doesn't die, we can't be together for a day. Wei Lingnan was silent. This matter was an unsolvable situation. He couldn't kill Xia Yingluo for the antidote to the rejection reaction. Even if he regarded human life as nothing, she was different. Gu Jingxiu's chest rose and fell, and his face turned slightly red with excitement. Speak. Wei Lingnan let go of her. I will step up research on the antidote and try to cultivate a second one as soon as possible. Gu Jingxiu's eyes were full of disappointment, But what else could she do? Directly order Wei Lingnan to kill Xia Yingluo? She didn't dare. Once she angered Xia Yingluo and exposed her identity, she would be the one who would suffer the most. Thinking for a while, she said to Wei Lingnan, "Teach me how to make the antidote." Wei Lingnan looked at her. "Teach me how to make the antidote." Gu Jingxiu's voice became firm. The more he thought about it, the more feasible the plan became. "I am the queen of Scatana. I should be able to learn these things very quickly. The two of us will study together. It's better than working hard all by yourself." Seeing her insistence, Wei Lingnan nodded, "Okay, it's just that the knowledge is obscure and complicated, so you have to be mentally prepared. This is not entirely the energy of Scatana. Knowledge is the antidote that he combined with the Earth's original life forms to improve it after he came to the Earth." Even if Gu Jingxiu knew some about the energy use of the Scatana planet, it was not easy to learn it. Gu Jingxiu smiled slightly, "I'm not afraid of hardship. Although she is the daughter of a wealthy family, she has been very talented since she was a child and was sent to study at a first-class university abroad. In order to meet the needs of her family's perfume production, she studied for a PhD in biology and chemistry. She excelled in her studies and could directly improve the family's core perfume formula, so she was ranked second in line to inherit the family as a girl, which was very unfortunate. Easy. So the matter was settled like this. Gu Jingxiu spent every day in Wei Lingnan's underground base and learned to make antidotes from him. The days were calm, and Xia Yingluo felt very comfortable. After ruling out Wei Lingnan's interference, she quickly secured the endorsement deal with Warnus Cosmetics. The head of Warnus Asia-Pacific region came to apologize to her in person and vowed to ensure that all endorsements for the next 3 years would be handed over to her. Incidents like Tang Yuan grabbing endorsements will not happen. Xia Yingluo didn't make things too difficult for him. After all, Wei Lingnan was the one who caused trouble for her in the first place. It would be too bullying to hold a small Huanisi group responsible. For her part, Warnus was filled with gratitude for her tolerance and repeatedly expressed that she would promote her well and push her fame to the top. Xia Yingluo thought silently in her heart, as a newly debuted artist, wouldn't it be easy to get her fame to the next level? Because the starting point is very low. She was impatient to deal with these scenes and left it to Tan Ying to handle everything. Tan Ying handled these small things very skillfully, and soon the rift between the two parties was repaired as if nothing had happened. In the spring season, Warnus' spring advertising campaign is officially launched. In the gorgeous light and shadow, Xia Yingluo appeared brilliantly wearing a gorgeous armor. In the close-up of the camera, the delicate makeup on her small face shines brightly, making people unable to take their eyes away. She is a natural spokesperson. No matter how high the clarity of the camera or how close it is, it will not damage her perfect skin. It is so crystal clear that not a single pore can be seen. The colors of Warnus eyeshadow and blush are so delicate that they are rendered layer by layer, just like dream. The business district in the city center, major airports, high-end magazines, and clubs. The advertisements she endorses can be seen everywhere. Countless people were amazed by it, and many people asked, "Who is the girl who is the spokesperson? She is so beautiful." Someone said, "Don't you all know Xia Yingluo? She is the daughter of Tianyi's big boss Li Lei. She is also Ye Xingling's only precious daughter. How can she not be beautiful? She has a family background and is born to be a star. It turns out it's her." Many people suddenly realized, no wonder she is so beautiful. Her eyebrows look a bit like Ye Xingling. Both mother and daughter have their own merits. Someone else said, Ye Xingling is like a clean and beautiful elf, while Xia Yingluo has murderous aura. Such a view was supported by many people and gradually spread. Xia Yingluo's aura was obvious, like a female warrior returning from the battlefield, with a chilly charm and thrilling look. In the ordinary urban life, few people can have such a temperament as Xia Yingluo, which also left a deep impression on many people. Overnight, Many people remembered this face and her name. Of course, there were some who were unhappy, such as Tang Yuan, who smashed the table at home. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1348. Chapter 1348 Malnutrition. She couldn't stand Xia Yingluo's success, which should have been hers. Tang Yuan smashed everything in the house that could be smashed. The valuable blue and white porcelain and colored glassware were broken all over the floor. She looked at the debris on the ground and thought angrily, why didn't Xia Yingluo die? Why should a well-known celebrity have to squeeze into the entertainment industry to compete for jobs with ordinary people like her who came from an art exam? This is simply not fair. Her face was distorted and she murmured, Xia Yingluo, I hate you. How could it be possible not to hate? Although Warner's advertising endorsement was won by Xia Yingluo or Tianyi, did not let her go. They bribed the media to release news, saying that Tang Yuan overestimated her abilities and tried to win the endorsement, but in the end she failed miserably. They even posted a photo of Tang Yuan halfway through her makeup. Tang Yuan is very beautiful in the photo, but it pales in comparison to Xia Yingluo's feature film. Xia Yingluo's cold, arrogant, and murderous aura is enough to crush any actress, and when paired with her armor, she is stunning, and she compares actress Tang Yuan to an empty and soulless puppet. There is ridicule of Tang Yuan everywhere in the media and on the internet. On professional rating websites, Tang Yuan's popularity index has dropped a lot, which directly affects her remuneration for subsequent films. This is simply a series of disasters. Her agent was so anxious that he couldn't help complaining, Sister Tang, I have long advised you not to grab Xia Yingluo's endorsement. Look, now it's better. If you don't get the endorsement, you'll be in trouble. Tang Yuan's heart was filled with nowhere to vent her anger. How could she be willing to grab this endorsement? It was obviously forced by Gu Jingxiu. Now that she is in trouble, the producer of her next film has directly reduced her salary by 1/3. How can she withstand such oppression? She couldn't help but call Gu Jingxiu, Miss Gu, it was you who asked me to trouble Xia Yingluo in the first place. Now you can't stand it anymore and asked Huan Yixi to return the endorsement to Xia Yingluo. Then what's going on? I can't be blamed for things like this. On the other end of the phone, Gu Jingxiu's tone was cold, I don't understand what you are talking about. I'm warning you, if you come to harass me again, don't blame me for being rude to you. Xia Yingluo got the endorsement and even gave birth to World Tree. How can it make Gu Jingxiu feel better? To be honest, Gu Jingxiu is the most troublesome one. At this time, Tang Yuan came to hit the gun. It would be good if she didn't tear her skin apart. Tang Yuan was disappointed, but she really didn't dare to continue harassing Gu Jingxiu. She still remembered that Gu Jingxiu had a strange medicine in his hand that could make a person's face rot. She couldn't bear that risk. This time she suffered a big loss. She could only lose her teeth and swallow blood. Tang Yuan fell seriously ill and became very haggard. Xia Yingluo took advantage of the momentum of Warner's spring advertising campaign and held several events in succession. Fans gathered quickly, and Tianyi deployed a dedicated team to help her build an official website and support club, and the results were very good. On a spring afternoon, she stood in the small garden of her villa wearing a light-colored dress, lowering her head and looking at the palm of her hand. The delicate white palm seemed to be empty, but through the spectrum invisible to humans, she could see a small golden green leaf faintly emerging, the brilliance flowing, and it was clearer than the previous days. What are you looking at? A man's voice came from behind. Xia Yingluo turned around and saw a handsome noble man standing not far behind him. The cherry blossoms on the tree were falling on him, like a dream, and it was so beautiful. Second brother, she called softly. Li Rui came over and looked at her palm. I saw you in a daze for a long time from afar. Is there anything special about it? There is the imprint of World Tree here, she said, pulling Li Rui's hand over and placing it on her palm. When you close your eyes, do you feel anything? Li Rui closed his eyes for a long time as he was told. Then he opened his eyes and shook his head. He reached out and put his hand on her forehead. What are you talking about? You don't have a fever, do you? You're the one who has a fever, Xia Yingluo glared at her brother angrily. I really didn't feel anything. Li Rui was extremely innocent. Xia Yingluo was a little disappointed and lowered her head. Should I feel anything? Li Rui asked her. She nodded. If the energy of the world tree was stronger, you would be able to sense its existence. Unfortunately, it is still too weak, and my energy is far from enough, she said, feeling a little worried. Recently, this period of time consumes a lot of energy, because the seeds of the world tree require too much energy to grow, and what she can provide is far less than what is consumed. If this continues, who knows whether world tree will die? If it really dies, is it probably the first world tree on Scatena to suffer from malnutrition? It's a joke. Xia Yingluo was extremely sad. Li Rui could roughly guess what she was thinking, and asked, you said before that the more popular you are after becoming famous, the more energy you can gather. I think the commercial you shot some time ago was quite good, and your popularity has also increased. No, have you gathered enough energy? Xia Yingluo smiled bitterly. There is indeed a gathering, but originally, her purpose of collecting energy was to extend her lifespan and start a spacecraft to reach space. According to the slow progress on Earth, in about 100 years she would be able to collect the minimum energy required to extend her lifespan for several decades and start a spacecraft. Once she entered space, she could collect energy at a much faster rate, replenishing it all the way to Star Katana. But the birth of World Tree was an accident. The energy required to nurture a world tree is staggering. Even on the planet Scatena, it requires the full support of the entire clan. The queen only got the initial energy by eating her husband. After the seeds of the world tree were formed, she still needed a lot of replenishment. Most of the energy of the whole clan will be provided to her through special transformation methods. At that time, the Scatena clan is at its weakest. The warriors are busy preventing the Zerg from taking advantage of the situation, and they are also busy collecting energy from everywhere to support the queen. Xia Yingluo once thought that it would be troublesome to give birth to a world tree on the planet Scatena, but now she realizes how much happier it is to have the full support of the whole family on the mother planet than to live on the Earth and win the lottery inexplicably. She looked up at the sky sadly. Second brother. What are you doing? I think I might die young. Huh? Li Rui was startled. Malnutrition kills 2 people, and they are dragged down to death by astronomical energy consumption. Li Rui was so nervous that his face changed. I'm warning you, you are not allowed to die. If you die, I will kill you, regardless of whether there was a speech problem or not. He paused and said quickly, it really can't be done, just ask that Wei Lingnan for help, just throw it away after use, same thing. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1349. Chapter 1349 Can't Survive. Xia Yingluo was quiet for a moment. Brother, you are so talented. Li Rui said confidently, he is responsible for all the trouble. He owes you this. It's not too much for you to get it back. Xia Yingluo lowered her head, feeling conflicted. She didn't want to have anything to do with Wei Lingnan anymore. On Scatena, betrayers were unforgivable. But the person who betrayed him was him, the person she had been closest to and trusted. As soon as she saw his familiar face, she could not help but think of the past many years ago. They were struggling on the line of life and death together. Fighting side by side, in the long cold night. Sometimes he would think she was asleep and secretly reach out to touch her cheek. Every moment is like yesterday. Let me think, she said softly. I really don't understand you girls. Leroy put his hands into his trouser pockets as he didn't have such worries. You should think it through as soon as possible. If you don't have enough energy, you will have to go find him sooner or later. It's better to be prepared in advance. I know. Xia Yingluo smiled reluctantly at her brother. Easier said than done. The most painful thing in a relationship is when one person changes his or her heart and the other person still falls. Xia Yingluo thought about this for more than 10 days, but she still didn't go to Wei Lingnan. She planned to support herself until she couldn't hold on any longer. The seeds of the world tree sleep quietly in her body. Whenever she collected a bit of energy, she would transfer it to it. However, no matter how hard she tried to transfer it, it never changed at all, and was as silent as dead. She knew that this was because there was not enough energy for it to grow. She is much thinner than before, her cheeks are sunken and her face is pale. Li Lei and Xiaoling looked at her worriedly. Yingluo, you can't go on like this. You can't let it drag you down. Xia Yingluo forced a smile and comforted her parents. The filming of Star Wars Era will start soon. The topic will become hot and my popularity will increase, and I will have a lot of new energy. It will be fine. Li Lei and Xiaoling were worried, but the energy field was beyond their reach and they couldn't help much. All they could do was to start shooting the movie Star Wars Era that was tailor-made for her as soon as possible. Press releases were sent out overwhelmingly, triggering a frenzy of heated discussions. The crew scene. Xia Yingluo took a few shots and stepped back to rest. She was sitting under an old tree not far from the camera, drinking mineral water in small sips. Early spring brings a gentle breeze. Here you are suddenly, a voice was heard saying. She looked up and saw her partner Zhang Yu, the male protagonist of the film, standing next to her. He handed her a cup of hot tea. Drink this. The mineral water is too cold and is not good for your health. Xia Yingluo smiled slightly and took it. Thank you. Zhang Yu sat down next to her and chatted. I really can't tell that this is your first official movie shooting. It feels so on point. It's better than many female stars I have acted with. Xia Yingluo laughed again. Of course. When I was a kid, I went to the studio to do soy sauce, and everyone said I was talented. Acting suits you very well, Zhang Yu praised sincerely. At the beginning, Tianyi informed him that he would be cast as Xia Yingluo. He was worried that she would not be able to perform well as a rich young lady, so he considered lowering his standards to cooperate with her more. I didn't expect her performance to be so outstanding. It was a pleasure to play opposite her. Every subtle look in her eyes and an inadvertent movement were conveyed so well that her partner could catch up smoothly. Zhang Yu has been in the industry for many years and has dated countless actresses. Those who are as worry-free as Xia Yingluo are definitely rare. The two of them sat under the tree, drinking tea together and enjoying the rare leisure time. The weather is fine, with white clouds and the wind rustling the leaves. A long and narrow light green leaf fell on the tip of her hair. Zhang Yu said, "Don't move." He raised his hand to help her take it off. Hand was caught in mid-air. The man who caught him was so strong that Zhang Yu felt as if his wrists were about to break, and his face was so painful that even his face was a little distorted. He struggled hard, but couldn't get away. He looked up and saw a man, with a tall figure standing under the ancient tree against the light. His face was carved out of ice and snow, looking very cold and stern, with a faint murderous intent. Wei Lingnan. Xia Yingluo spoke first, with anger in her voice, "Let him go." Wei Lingnan then let go of Zhang Yu's hand. Zhang Yu hurriedly pulled his hand back. When he saw it, there was a circle of black bruises on his wrist, and there were several dark black bleeding spots. He had no doubt that if the man just grabbed him again, he might even crush the bones. Break. This man is simply a monster. Where does he get such strength? Zhang Yu was wary, but she still stood up and quietly protected Xia Yingluo behind her. What are you doing here? This is a studio, and no one else is allowed in. Wei Lingnan noticed his little move to protect Xia Yingluo. Her face became a little colder, and she looked at him as if she wanted to kill someone. Xia Yingluo was afraid that something would happen. How could an ordinary human like Zhang Yu offend a pervert like Wei Lingnan? He quickly stood up and said to Zhang Yu, "I'm fine, Zhang Yu. Thank you for the tea. Please help me take the cup back." As he said this, he handed him the teacup that was still warm and added a touch of it. A reassuring smile. Zhang Yu understood that she wanted to send him away. He glanced at her disapprovingly. "Yingluo, don't be so pushy." "I'm really fine," Xia Yingluo said, "the crew is so close. The next scene is about to start shooting. I said we'll talk and we'll be there." Zhang Yu looked at the direction of the crew. It was only a dozen meters away from here. People were coming and going, so it was unlikely that anything big would happen, so she had no choice but to say, "If you have any questions, just call me." Xia Yingluo nodded, "Okay." Zhang Yu then looked at them worriedly and left slowly. Xia Yingluo raised her head and looked directly into Wei Lingnan's eyes. "Tell me, why did you come to see me?" Her tone of voice when she spoke was cold and slightly irritable, which was completely different from the gentle words she had just spoken to Zhang Yu. Wei Lingnan's eyes also turned cold. "It seems that you are doing well during this period," she sarcastically said. "Mr. Wei seems to care about me very much. This is not something you should be concerned about, right? You can't live without me." Wei Lingnan's voice also contained a touch of sarcasm. "Do you know what you are carrying? Do you know how much energy the Scatena tribe's world tree needs to absorb? Look. Look at what you look like now." She had lost so much weight after not seeing her for just a few days. Her skin was pale and crumbling, which made him inexplicably irritable. Xia Yingluo certainly knew what she was carrying and had seriously considered the possibility of killing two people. But seeing that he actually disliked her appearance, she suddenly became angry. "Who caused me to look like this? Wei Lingnan, do you think I really want to be involved with you? I can't live without you. Don't go down? You think too highly of yourself. Get out." End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1350. Chapter 1350 Conflict on the set. He stood still. Xia Yingluo couldn't contain her anger, so she turned around and left. Wei Lingnan grabbed her and put a small glass bottle into her hand. "Drink it if you don't want to die." "I'll drink it if you tell me to." "Why?" She threw the bottle out without thinking, with great strength. Seeing that the bottle was about to fall to the ground and shatter into pieces, Wei Lingnan grabbed it, pushed Xia Yingluo to the trunk of the ancient tree, and looked at her ferociously. "You are looking for death. Does she know what is in the bottle? The antidote to rejection." He went through a lot of trouble and a long time to extract a bottle. He thought about her body very much and sent it all the way, but she threw it out like garbage. Xia Yingluo met his terrifying eyes and was so frightened that her heart stopped for half a beat. However, in an instant, the anger overshadowed the fear. "You are the one seeking death. Wei Lingnan, I warn you, if you harass me again, I will be rude to you." "How can you be so rude?" Wei Lingnan laughed angrily. "Spit me? Kill me? I'm sorry, you don't even have the strength to break free from my control." He said while pushing open the glass bottle with one hand. He grabbed her chin with his other hand and poured the bottle of antidote into her mouth. His movements were very rough, making her cough repeatedly. He let go of his hand, and she bent over for a long time, unable to recover. "Beast, beast," Xia Yingluo coughed and cursed. Wei Lingnan looked down at her and sneered. Finally, she took a breath. straightened up and looked at him angrily. Your goal has been achieved, you can get out. The bottle of liquid that had just been forcibly poured down was surging in her stomach, and she could feel the overwhelming force. Energy of. She discovered that he had added a lot of things to this bottle of potion, not only anti-rejection drugs, but more likely to supplement the nutrients she needed to conceive the world tree. There was a slight ripple in his heart. It turned out that he had noticed her predicament. However, this ripple was quickly suppressed, so what if you noticed it? Even if he sends more potions, it can't make up for the betrayal and harm. She glared at him and said again, get out. A storm is brewing in Wei Lingnan's glacial lake-like eyes. Is this your attitude towards your savior? You have the nerve to call yourself your savior, Wei Lingnan. If it weren't for you, how would I be like this? I would rather never have known you. She became more and more excited as she spoke, and the energy liquid she had just consumed surged unsteadily. Make her cough. She didn't know whether she was angry or aggrieved. Her eye circles were slightly red, and while coughing, she thought, if it weren't for him, how could her Scatna star be wiped out overnight? She is the sinner of the entire race. The most powerful race in the universe was destroyed because of her. She is really not qualified to be the queen. Her body bent down little by little, and the pain was uncontrollable. Wei Lingnan reached out to support her, raised her pale face, and pressed his cool lips to hers. He didn't know what was wrong with him. Even though he already had Alo, he still couldn't see the girl in front of him resisting him. The thin mist in her eyes made his heart ache. In a daze, he thought of Alo on the planet Scatna. A word to say to him. Don't be sad, Nan. When you feel sad, I want to cry. How did he answer at that time? Don't cry, Your Highness, I will never make you cry again. Hundreds of millions of years of time, hundreds of millions of light years of distance. He didn't expect that he could still relieve the pain he felt back then. At this moment, he just wanted to comfort her, and he didn't understand why. Her surprised, restless and angry eyes overlapped with the clear eyes of the little princess in his memory. Reality and fantasy overlapped, making it impossible for him to tell who the girl in front of him was. Until, she pushed him away hard. Pervert, beast, she wiped her lips vigorously and cursed. Sense returned to his mind, and Wei Lingnan's expression gradually became clear. He saw her thin body standing in the flower-scented wind of early spring, her chest rising and falling, and her reddish eyes looking like they were about to spit out fire. He sneered softly, "Are you perverted? When your energy is exhausted and you are on the verge of death, and you have to kneel in front of me and beg, you will know how kind I am to you now." He felt that he was so stupid. How could he take the initiative to give her medicine? She should be asked to beg hard and have all her pride and self-esteem crushed under her feet. You're dreaming. I'd rather die than beg you. Xia Yingluo only regretted that she didn't have a weapon in her hand, so she couldn't poke a few transparent holes in the hateful pervert in front of her. Over there, Zhang Yu trotted over. Yingluo. Are you okay? The two people who were at war with each other calmed down. Xia Yingluo managed to calm down her breathing, turned to Zhang Yu and said, "It's okay, let's go." Over there, the director called the crew to get in position and prepare to start shooting the next scene. Wei Lingnan stood where he was, and the light green leaves of the ancient trees fell one after another. He watched her and Zhang Yu leave side by side, and reached out his hand to gently touch his lips, where her sweet touch was still there. It was strange that he would desire her and be jealous of her being with another man. Is it the influence of World Tree? Because she carries within her the hope of the Scatna tribe? No. No. He doesn't care about the Scatna tribe at all. If he had cared about it, he wouldn't have launched a rebellion against the entire tribe in the first place. With or without the World Tree, Xia Yingluo is still Xia Yingluo, and all he cares about is her. How should he explain to a Luo like this? How could he care about other women and betray his own queen? On this day, Wei Lingnan stood in the wind for a long time. The news report came out the next day, and the entertainment page was full of photos of them, romantically kissing under the old tree on the set, with tiny bits of sunlight shining through the veins of the light green leaves, making them look beautiful and picturesque. Public opinion is boiling. If I remember correctly, Xia Yingluo was in love with Wei Lingnan before? So what's going on now? Is the old love rekindled? Oh my god, what will Zhang Yu do and Gu Jingxiu do in this case? What a big gossip! The melon-eating crowd screamed. Oh my Zhang Yu, is this the time to fall out of love? And Gu Jingxiu, she was showing off her happiness on Weibo some time ago, saying that she and Wei Lingnan plan to get married. Haven't you heard that Gu Jingxiu is a bitch? She was the one who wanted to steal Wei Lingnan from Xia Yingluo. It's true or not, isn't it that they were childhood sweethearts? We are childhood sweethearts, Wei Lingnan has never recognized him. For a time, all kinds of rumors were swirling, old gossips were unearthed one after another, and the people started a lively discussion. As the person at the center of the discussion, his mood was not so good. End of this chapter.